Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video we're going to be taking a look at some very spicy battles in the Great League featuring Shadow MANECTRIC and Dedenne. These battles were submitted to the channel by a member of the community, so many thanks for the battle submission. Now Shadow MANECTRIC is an absurdly attack-weighted Pokemon, and it's only running nukes. So with Wild Charge and Overheat, opponents have two options: shield or get one shot. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches and check out Shadow MANECTRIC in action in the Great League. Hopping to the first match, picking up a bit of a tough lead, Noctowl into Alolan Ninetails. This is a Powder Snow Alolan Ninetails. We're going to see the save switch into Shadow MANECTRIC, and unfortunately, MANECTRIC is going to have to shield the Weather Ball, as that would do a ton of damage. Opponent then going to send in G-Fisk. Oh my goodness. Do they respect the Overheat? They do not! G-Fisk gets one shot. In comes Alolan Ninetails. Ninetails going to be met with a Wild Charge from the Shadow MANECTRIC. That's going to grab a shield. Opponent looking for the farm down. They're able to get the farm down, but now they're going to be aligned against the Dedenne. So Shadow MANECTRIC able to win switch, and now this battler does have the alignment that they need. Dazzling Gleam lands, that deals a ton of damage, as Dedenne definitely not the tankiest Pokemon around. Dedenne is going to commit the shield. Dedenne going for the play rough here. Decision time for the Alolan Ninetails. Do we see the final shield being used? We do. Aggressive switch into the Noctowl. Noctowl farming up, making it to the Sky Attack, but losing CMP to the Ninetails. Ninetails fires off the Weather Ball. That deals quite a bit of damage. Noctowl going to return fire with the Sky Attack. Sky Attack gets them low, gets the farm down in the back. It's a Trevenant, and Noctowl farming up here and able to make it to the Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball will hit for super effective damage, KOing the Trevenant and securing the win. The tough leads continue in the next match. Noctowl into Froslass. Immediate save switch into Shadow MANECTRIC. Opponent is going to respond with Shadow Venusaur. Venusaur farming up. Venusaur throws on alignment and gives MANECTRIC a free snarl. Frenzy Plant is going to be shielded. MANECTRIC over farming all the way up to 100 energy and baiting with the Wild Charge, hoping for the shield from the opponent. Wild Charge gets the shield. Opponent may think this is back-to-back Wild Charges, but bad news. It's an Overheat. Get absolutely one shot. Back in comes the Froslass. Froslass gets the farm down, but now Froslass is going to be aligned onto Dedenne. Dedenne can tank any one move here. Froslass goes for the harder hitting Shadow Ball. That does deal quite a bit of damage. Farming up to the Play Rough, goes for the Discharge. Opponent tried to catch the Play Rough onto a Azumarill, but instead they catch the super effective Discharge. Dedenne on very low HP, able to make it to a final Discharge. This will get the Azumarill low, and now you can just send in Noctowl, and you just fully commit to the farm down here, and you should be able to get enough energy to make it to 2 Shadow Balls versus the Froslass. Hydro Pump deals quite a bit of damage. Noctowl gets the farm down, and at this point, you can very safely go for the double Shadow Ball. Going for the Sky Attack here. This could be a bit risky if the opponent calls the bait, which they do. Opponent playing to their win con, and suddenly this is no sure thing. Avalanche is going to get shielded. Noctowl still does have a lot of energy. The question is, can Noctowl outpace the Froslass here? Sky Attack gets the shield. Noctowl is barely able to outpace the Froslass, make it to a third Sky Attack, get the KO, and secure the win. More bad leads in the next match. Noctowl into Alolan Ninetails. This is Powder Snow A9. We're going to see the save switch into MANECTRIC, and the opponent responds with a Shadow Swampert. Unfortunately, both charge moves are resisted here. MANECTRIC going for the Wild Charge. That did not look like resisted damage to me, as MANECTRIC nearly able to KO the Swampert. Opponent overfarms into a CMP tie, and Shadow MANECTRIC, an electric type, is somehow able to grab shield advantage from a ground type. And now you just send in Noctowl. Noctowl will be met with a Shadow Hydro Cannon, which is a bit unfortunate. But I think at this point, after baiting out the Swampert, you just have to hope that Dedenne can carry you to victory here. Opponent will fire off the Weather Ball. That gets the Noctowl low, looking to pivot into Dedenne. In the back is Trevenant. And unfortunately, this is feeling like it might just be game over, as Trevenant does have a pretty nice matchup against Dedenne. Dedenne is able to land the Play Rough, which is big, but at this point, Trevenant can pretty safely just go straight for the Seed Bomb. And that's exactly what they're going to do. They go for Seed Bomb number 1, firing off the Discharge. This Discharge is resisted, but it will KO the low health Trev, so Trev will commit the shield. And I think Trev just has too much energy here. Dedenne commits the shield. It's another Seed Bomb. Dedenne makes it to the Discharge, but loses CMP to the Trevenant. Trevenant, Seed Bomb, KOs Dedenne, in comes the Noctowl, but unfortunately the Ninetails is just too healthy. Ninetails farms down, and that's game over. We've got Spice on the lead in the next match. Noctowl into Kommo-o. Opponent is going to save switch into Regirock, and this opponent is running an incredibly cool team. Regirock is very spammy, so Regirock is going to fire off the Stone Edge, and we will see the immediate shield from MANECTRIC. MANECTRIC farming up to the back-to-back wild charges, but again, Regirock is just lightning fast thanks to Lock On. MANECTRIC farming up to 100 energy and going to start firing off these wild charges into the Regirock. Wild charge is going to KO. Opponent sends back in Kommo-o. Kommo-o, these Dragon Tails tearing through the debuff defense of MANECTRIC. Wild charge lands. MANECTRIC is going to get farmed down. In comes Dedenne. In the back, opponent has a Registeel, and despite the fact that Dedenne doesn't have any shields here, Dedenne can hopefully put up a decent fight because Dedenne is going to be resisting Registeel's standard moveset. Dedenne is firing off the discharge into the Registeel. Decision time for Registeel. They are going to start shielding. Makes sense. They definitely need Registeel to put in work against this Noctowl in the endgame. They go for the Zap Cannon. Opponent does not get the debuff. That is incredibly helpful. Firing off this discharge. This discharge is going to land onto the Registeel. Dedenne continuing to farm. Opponent will fire off their charge move here. Dedenne's health starting to get low. Focus Blast is going to KO. Aggressive switch by the opponent, and that may have just been a critical mistake. They go for the close combat here, but now Noctowl gets energy. Noctowl leaves with a Shadow Ball loaded. Noctowl very close to the back-to-back Sky Attacks here. Is this Sky Attack range? It's going to be close. Sky Attack gets the shield, makes it to the Shadow Ball, not wanting to risk anything, making it to the Shadow Ball. That KOs the Reggie, and that's a good game. We've got a Nightmare lead in the next match. Noctowl into Bastiodon. This entire team does not want to see Bastiodon. Save switch into Shadow MANECTRIC. Oh boy, Shadow MANECTRIC getting torn to shreds by Razor Leaf from Shadow Victory Bell. Wild Charge does get a shield, but unfortunately things still not looking great here. Sending in the Noctowl, but did not wait out the full switch timer, which means that odds are Noctowl is probably going to get stuck against the Bastiodon for a period of time. They're going to fire off a Sludge Bomb from the Victory Bell. Oh my goodness, opponent with the spicy moveset. And now Noctowl has basically been KO'd. So it's all up to Dedenne to try and clutch this. Unfortunately, was not able to switch out. And now Dedenne has to try and take out a Bastiodon. And I think it's just going to be too much for Dedenne to do. I mean, in the back, they are probably running Medicham, which would be pretty nice for Dedenne to see, but I just don't know if they're ever going to see the Medicham here. Dedenne continuing to farm, opponent recognizing they can probably just sack the Medicham, basically just get this Dedenne to waste energy, and then their Bastiodon should be in a pretty nice spot to finish off the game. As you can see, Dedenne forced to use all of the energy to get rid of the Medicham, and I just don't think there's enough that Dedenne can do here, as Discharge is not going to KO from this health range. Dedenne firing off the Discharge. Bastiodon will commit the shield, but unfortunately does get the farm down. Moving into the next set, and we've got a change of lead. So the same double electric backline, but now leading Chestnaught into Galarian Stunfisk. And the Stunfisk is staying in. This means the opponent must have a Pokemon in the back that is very weak to Chestnaught, because this is an absolutely atrocious matchup for Galarian Stunfisk. Anything Stunfisk throws from its typical moveset is going to be resisted here. They go for the Earthquake, and Chestnaught is able to shake off that damage and go for another Frenzy Plant. You do need 2 moves to KO here, so we are going to see the Frenzy Plant land. Opponent has farmed up quite a bit of energy, so we are going to see Chestnaught commit the last second shield. Unfortunately, does get baited with a Rock Slide. Chestnaught farming up, and a very nice CMP tie. Great counting as firing off the Superpower, and that is going to get the KO. Opponent going to send in Noctowl. Noctowl going to be met with the Shadow MANECTRIC, and MANECTRIC will be met with the Lantern. Going for the Wild Charge. This is only neutral, but it still does so much damage to the Lantern. Oh my goodness. Lantern goes for the Surf. That KOs Shadow MANECTRIC, and from here, you can get rid of the Lantern with Chestnaught, and you have Dedenne to absolutely crush the Noctowl in the endgame. Chestnaught going for the farm down and gets it and leaves with a superpower loaded to hit the Noctowl for some nice neutral damage. Superpower gets a shield from the opponent and Dedenne can comfortably clean up this game. Dedenne lives any one move from here, so we do see the no shield. Opponent goes for the Shadow Ball, but Dedenne can pretty comfortably double up on discharges here and absolutely crush the Noctowl. Discharge number 1 is going to get them low, and discharge number 2 will get the KO there, as Dedenne gets the win. Dream lead in the next match, Chestnaught into Shadow Swampert. You absolutely love to see it. Opponent will immediately save switch into Galarian Stunfisk, so the opponent is core broken by Chestnaught, which is great news, but the opponent having 2 ground types does not bode well for the double electrics in the back. Chestnaught continuing to farm, makes it to the superpower and wins CMP over the Stunfisk. Superpower is going to grab a shield as the opponent has a lot of energy and they want to put it to use. Decision time here. Chestnaught lets it through. The Earthquake lands, and that still does quite a bit of damage due to the Chestnaught being debuffed. Chestnaught, you kind of have to keep it alive here, so we will see a shield be used. Chestnaught continuing to farm up. Opponent reaches another Rock Slide. Do we see a double shield from the Chestnaught? Yes, we do. Chestnaught over farming a ton of energy here, and now going for the superpower. This will easily KO, but then you're probably going to have to pivot to try and bait back out the Swampert. They have Noctowl. In comes Shadow MANECTRIC. Noctowl farming up energy and going to be met with the Wild Charge. The opponent has to shield this or they'll get one shot. They do not. They let it go, and bye-bye Noctowl. In comes the Shadow Swampert, but Swampert is going to take so much damage from the Wild Charge that they're forced to shield. Now Swampert does have a ton of energy here. You might honestly want to bring in Dedenne just to soak the damage, and that's exactly what they're going to do. Send in Dedenne, basically just use it as a damage sponge. Swampert goes for the Hydro Cannon. Hydro Cannon not going to KO. Opponent tries to go for the farm down, and that is going to cost them as Dedenne reaches the Play Rough, and Play Rough KOs the Swampert. Chestnaught cannot stop picking up favorable leads as it leads into another Shadow Swampert. This opponent is going to save switch into Sableye, and Sableye will be met with a Frenzy Plant from the Chestnaught. This Frenzy Plant will do a ton of damage, so we do see a shield from the Sableye, and now in comes Dedenne. Dedenne with a shield advantage is very, very deadly in this matchup. Opponent full sends the return, and with the shield advantage, Dedenne can comfortably shield that, overfarm, and then go for the kill shot with the Play Rough. Firing off the Play Rough, opponent will commit the final shield. Opponent desperately trying to win switch. Dedenne does not want to let that happen. Dedenne is going to commit the shield. It's the return, and Dedenne not wanting to risk that Sableye switching out, going for the Play Rough and securing the KO. In comes the Shadow Swampert. Swampert farming up. Swampert lets Dedenne make it to a Play Rough, and this is going to do a ton of damage. Play Rough lands, nearly KOing the Swampert. Swampert does leave with a lot of energy. In comes Chestnaught, and Chestnaught will absorb this energy. Let's see, do they have Sludge Wave? Yes, they do! Sludge Wave KOs, and this honestly may just be game over here as Shadow Hydro Cannon one-shots the poor MANECTRIC, and that's a good game. Hopping to the final match, leading Chestnaught into Ferrothorn. A pretty decent matchup for Chestnaught, but of course Chestnaught will have to debuff itself with a superpower to do any meaningful damage in this matchup. Ferrothorn has farmed up quite a bit of energy here, and this Ferrothorn is running Mirror Shot as its second move. So thankfully no Flash Cannon to worry about. Chestnaught will go for the superpower. Opponent is going to let that through, and superpower number 2 is followed up shortly thereafter. This superpower will grab a shield from the opponent. Opponent trying to get some damage off onto this Chestnaught. Chestnaught will commit the shield as it is now -2, and Chestnaught just has so much energy, able to make it to a third superpower. Opponent double shielding, tried to make a catch there onto Dedenne, but unfortunately no such luck. That Mirror Shot will do quite a bit of damage. They make it to another Mirror Shot, and I like this play pattern. Honestly, just save the shield for the Shadow MANECTRIC. In comes MANECTRIC. MANECTRIC looking for the farm down. Unfortunately, did get the 0 turn switch in there. Commits the shield. It is the Power Whip. Very nice counting there, recognizing that it wasn't just the Mirror Shot. Opponent is going to send in Lantern. Lantern not going to appreciate this Wild Charge from MANECTRIC. Wild Charge lands, switch into Dedenne. Dedenne farming up energy, and it's a Noctowl in the back, so the opponent's backline gets torn to shreds by Electric. Discharge, big damage onto the Noctowl, makes it to discharge number 2, and that should seal it, as Lantern just cannot do enough damage to this Dedenne to win the game. Lantern is going to try, though, firing off the Surf into Dedenne. That will do some solid chip damage, but Dedenne wins CMP over the Lantern. Discharge easily KOs, and that is a good game. All in all, these were some very fun battles featuring Shadow Manectric. Shadow Manectric, due to its extreme glassiness, definitely more of a pick for fun than for climbing. But man, a Pokemon with that high of an attack stat with only nukes can be extremely fun, especially on the save switch, as if your opponents don't respect it, they are going to have to deal with an insane amount of damage. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you, as always, to our members here on YouTube. The support guys provide is absolutely